Hello guys and welcome back to a new week's episode. We look at the scenario what we look at the scenario what if civilization started over. And today we are on episode 17 if I'm right. And before we uh, continue the war, I will show you the new stats. As you can see, India and South India doesn't have a navy anymore because it got wrecked last time. As you can see, India already lost 3 million people, so to 25% of the population is now gone, and also South India also lost about 1 to 1.5 million people, but they weren't on the stats before. As you can see, so now even if you look at the stability, they are relatively stable, but they're just both last in history. But really, they yeah, actually they don't really have an industry. Actually, now that I think about it, this, the country got completely destroyed, and they only have a bit of an army. And by the way, the Persian army is now even stronger than before. Yes. And also Persian stability dropped. And also Estonia isn't in the ranks anymore. And here I actually also forgot a country. Last time it was Egypt. Now I've kind of forgot that England is still relatively strong actually. Uh, but still, the Navy team is slowly but surely actually rising in power a bit. But we see how long that lasts, because the Navy team is actually spending 10% of the entire GDP on Navy for like over 100 years now, which basically solidifies them as the strongest Navy, because uh, they spend more for the Navy than Germany does for its army and navy combined. So just to show you that. So now we continue with the war, and the first thing we are seeing is the push into the city, cutting off the supplies on here, killing everything completely, pushing further into the country. And we also see more and more, whoops, and we also see more and more of an invasion of this green country right here. Reinforcements haven't arrived, so we see how they get killed slowly. But then we actually see the green country doing something, getting control over this city from the Persians, and now pushing into this green country, taking more major cities than Persia, but they are still getting pushed by, okay, that's not really good color, but they are still getting pushed by the light blue country here. And if we look at the navy map, we see that the small navy they have is destroyed, and we also see them being completely landlocked, and the city is now put under siege. Now the next thing we see is also something about navy, I know, but we see the further destruction of the East African navy, which is really surprising because everyone thought they had a strong navy, but they really didn't. It just was large, but not really good organized, and they don't even have good admirals. So Egypt is actually doing better with navy, still getting pushed out of the Red Sea with the navy, but maintaining good control over the middle right here. And now we see that India is advancing, that Persia, whoops, is advancing further down to this city, cutting off the entire supply, which they already did, but still this is really close to the capital. And now we see them completely being annexed, and about half of the East African army got encircled, and this is a really big blow. Of course, many East Africans are fleeing in the desert, but they still all die, so and doesn't bring them anything. But actually, we see Egypt pushing back the Persian country, and that's kind of crazy because they are kind of the first country to do so, and actually hurting the Persians. And actually, they start an invasion into Arabia, trying to capture this major city. They cannot take it, but they can besiege it, and everyone is really surprised by that because Egypt's just pushing over the way that's the alliance, by the way. Uh, by the way, still everything is concerned about a war in India, so they actually don't know that they are at war with India. But still, they have a really large army and they have a militaristic ally, which you can see here. It's a monarch. Whoops. And these are actually military juntas. Oh. Okay. Still, doesn't matter. But we have a next big thing, and we actually can stay on the ideology map. These two Indian countries actually have really good and friendly relations, but that's about to change because we see communist counter-revolution in the south of the country, spreading relatively quick in the south of the country, and actually they are also almost taking the capital, and they are communist. It's a communist counter-revolution, which is crazy because they take a lot of cities. And in North India, there's not a communist counter-revolution, there's a monarchist counter-revolution in these cities right here. And they want to have a monarch just like every other country. And yeah, the South Indian country is basically fucked now. Upon hearing the news, the generals flood the Indians with just assault tactics, which may actually sound dumb, but it's really smart because the Indians are trying to get the revolt in check, but they don't. The revolt actually captured one city of the, actually two cities of the Persian army, but still, the monarchist revolution is hurting the Indians more. And we see more and more fronts actually connecting up and pushing back the monarchist counter-revolution. And the Indian government is really surprised by that because they never would have thought that in this time where India needs the supporters the most, they just backstab them. Of course, it also makes sense because they can now overthrow the government really easy. But still, the plan of the monarchists, by the way, kind of failed because uh, they don't get the Persian country is still invading them. But we see the Persian country just taking everything back they lost actually, and actually instantly cutting off the counter-revolution into two portions, capturing one of their main cities, and in the south they're also getting pushed back. And we also gonna of course forget the sweeping that happens in the north of the South Indian country right now. But the monarchists are actually able to take these two cities down here, which is really good for the communists. But still, the infighting is just too crazy, and the South Indians are actually able to push the communists back relatively good actually. But now India has even more problems than they already had, so it's kind of really bad for them now. And the next thing we are going to see is the combined arms of the Indian and the Crimean Navy to push back to destroy the Mediterranean Navy of the Persian country, because you need to remember there isn't a Suez Canal right now, and we actually see the Persian country just completely annihilating the navy of the East Africans and just having complete control over the sea of over the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Peninsula, which a lot of people are really surprised about that they are even managing to pull this off, but still they invested a lot into their navy. But the Suez Canal doesn't exist, so it doesn't help them against the other countries. So we see that with the help of the Persian country, we see that the the green country doesn't have a second front anymore, because the green country right here surrenders. And we also see the pushback of this country right here. I don't know how I called it, but they are now really close to get on the Crimean capital. We see them besieging the capital, going for this city, going around the capital, going for this city, and capturing this one, while the military of this country was waiting in the capital. But a big surprise, they capture back and encircle the brown team, brown team troops, taking back the city over here, which is a really surprising move. And Paul in 18 didn't expect that, so he retreats for better locations into the cities, into castles and everything. And now we actually see, with the combined arms of the Persian country and this republic right here, we can see that they are managing to push back the Crimean country, because the Crimean country still doesn't have a really great military. And we see them actually pushing this one city, and even in the north they are pushing, but they will now stop because the terrain here is really hilly and mountainous. Then Egypt is still pushing above their weight, taking these two coastal cities, reaching up to the Turkey country, I guess, going down, capturing this major city. And of course we need to calculate that almost 50% of the remaining army of the East Africans are also on the front, because only the other 50% are guarding the coast, because they don't have a front anymore, by the way. But still, the most pushing is done by Egypt, and they are sieging down more and more and taking also more and more major cities, because every great military strategist is either in India, here in the north, or yeah, basically the was. But now we see the brother of Poland, 18, which is also a really good military strategist, coming actually coming onto the north, taking back the city, pushing back with more and more smarter maneuvers, and they actually cut off the Egyptian army in the north and siege these two cities, and everything is looking good again for the Persian country. But they are still pushing uh, resources into India, and India is the one country that's really actually draining them of their resources. They capture these things again, uh, encircle a few troops, and India is now actually fighting back and taking more major cities than ever, even with a complete destroyed industry. They have a really high morale, and they're actually able to cut off this section of the front line right here and just take it back actually with a lot of mass assault. But still, the Indian government is actually pushing back the Persians. But one of the reasons the Indian government even had a revolution is because they suspended elections, um, and the one party that was last time really that had the last time had really high votes, which was the monarchist party, couldn't vote, even though they believed they would have won, so they started their own revolution. But we see now a bit of pushing back on the South Indian government, on the communist government, and we also see the government actually pushing a two-front war with no industry, which is actually really impressive. But they are helping the Indian government and actually taking back this major city. And then we see Poland going to this front right here in the north. We see him kicking ass actually, telling these guys to go to this country. Why this country, you may ask? Because they're also monarchists. And they actually like the Persian country and Poland, but they don't want to say it because they don't want to get flamed in case of the Persians are losing. Because if you look at the map, it's kind of two countries against way more. So they just accept free. They just accept immigrants and everything, and even allow military assistance. The army pushes into the north right here, abandoning these cities, and this government doesn't know where they went. So they take back the army to the other front, trying to push this city, get encircled, get killed, and a few weeks later, after they retreat out of the city, a major push on the capital was started. But then from the south, they took the city, encircled a few troops here, and then from the north, we see a lot of troops just pulling into the capital, taking it, encircling a lot of these troops. And of course, these countries want to know what happened, and why they could push from the north, and they found out that this country actually was giving the Persians military access, but they cannot do anything about it right now because they just lost a really militaristic ally, and are actually now completely taking over the country. Maybe not completely, but they are close to the border and they're close to the capital of the Crimean country, which on a map actually doesn't look that big actually, everything about it. And the Crimean country also has to worry about an invasion of the religious republic because they own this land. But now, with the Persians actually winning against all odds, um, the world is a bit worried that the Persians get too strong because if you look at it, they are almost spreading. They are actually spreading from Europe to India, to the east coast of India, down in the Arabian Peninsula, which is a crazy big country actually, if you now think about it. And one country has uh, that was actually bad and now has slowly turned to good might actually trying to help them, but not right now. But the thing we see is that um, that the Second Religious Republic is pushing into Crimea, completely overwhelming their defenses because actually they don't have anything here. They just wanted to defend the Italian peninsula, which they are going to get. But uh, now the military government has a new leader actually after a long time, and this leader just wants conquest. And I think that's really obvious what happens now. The religious republic gets slapped in the face again, completely overrun in a few months. Like, this country is like the navy country, but with military actually. They lose their capital, and the Second Religious Republic is just folding under no pressure. They actually are occupying um, the lands of the Crimean country, and they could absolutely crush the Crimean country and their allies actually. But still, we see finally the military horde coming to a halt in Greece, down here. But now the Crimean government is demanding back its territory. The leader is a bit dumb, maybe, because he demands the return of the territories, and they get it. But not because of the military government is so nice, just because they kind of fear this Belarusian country in the north and the German country, which is really friendly with the Crimean, and actually also the East African country, Italy, Eastern Italian country. So they're going to give it back to them. The Crimean country is actually now pushing back again into the different into the Turkic Republic, and we see that Egypt is now pushing back even further because Paul 18's brother actually went somewhere else. But Paul actually also went somewhere else, and no one knows where they went. But they are taking this opportunity to push, and actually, now actually is the time where they actually discover that the Persian country is at war with the Indian countries. They didn't know it until now. Um, and Poland and his brother want to change that. Because remember, they still have complete naval dominance over everything right here, except down here. But they are now pulling off their greatest move. We see every city here is really fought by three sides. So the rebellions, the governments, and the Persians. And they are going to take this opportunity to just land there and just land there and take it. And Poland is here and his brother is right here, going into the southern India and actually doing a lot of things. Whoops, that actually was the wrong color. Lol. So this is not the right color, yes. So now we see here these two, the Paul 19 taking these two cities and his brother taking these two cities and actually pushing up in the south to his brother, connecting up the fronts, connecting up with this front, then just completely swiping off the South Indian government, which actually loses their capital right now because they are really disorganized, because a lot of people joined the military, the communist revolution, and the communist revolution is actually just taking the cities back. And actually now the official government of India, because the other ones surrendered, but we still have Paulin 18 himself pushing up in the north, killing the monarchist rebellions and pushing into the Indian government. And they still didn't hear the news about the front that they are getting pushed back on. And now we actually see them getting slowly pushed back on these right here. And now the final decision was made. One country is going to join the Triangle Alliance, and I think it's really obvious who it is. Oops. It's the blue country. The blue country joins the Triangle Alliance and is flooding reinforcements into the Egyptians actually, and also no, they're not flooding reinforcements into Egypt. They are flooding reinforcements into this northern country, taking the Turkey capital, and yeah, as you can see, they're steamrolling right now. Now actually meet up with the Egypt in the south, and you can see them liberating the green country, and they're actually doing a naval invasion into the capital of the country, which is really surprising for the generals, and that's why they didn't expect it. And actually they're doing a naval invasion right here also, and as you can see, Paulin's army and generals are kind of getting pushed back, yes. And then we see further capturing back of territories, and we also actually see that the Bright Green country is cutting off these cities right here because he's losing right now because he's in his brother with his son actually is in India, while all of his incompetent generals are fighting everywhere else because every smart general was connected with the genocide that happened, and yeah, and he killed all of them, which I mean, of course, they kind of deserve, but now looking back, he probably shouldn't, but still, um, this this orange country is trying to help them, but with the blue country on the side of the trapezoids, they are scared to join the war, and we actually see the complete liberation of these northern territories actually, and we see slowly them getting pushed back here, and then actually the Turkic government collapses and they surrender over to the blue country, and Poland is now kind of fucked. So it's a last digit effort. The only thing he can now think about, which is the smartest thing to do, is retreating out of India. So over 1 month of over the course of 1 month, we see the Indians capturing back their territory, and this is really astonishing that he actually retreated. That he actually retreated out of India. We actually see the South Indian government coming back, but with a lot less major cities than the communists. Oops. And India is back again, I would say, but still the Rebellions are fighting itself, and they have back about 20% of the army now. A lot of them died actually, and everything, but Poland has still one trick up his sleeve. While his brother is pushing back in the north and the Caucasus and everything, he will do something else. And before that, you actually see the Second Republic doing a slight pushback against the military government, and they are actually piecing out on it. So yes, that happened. And now we see Egypt doing a few more pushes, actually cutting off right here with the help of more countries. But then the brother arrives, kicks Egyptian ass, and actually also Crimean ass, and makes a huge pushback to the original border, and slightly pushes back in the north these two countries right here. And now Pauline 18 is executing his plan, which is risky. We see him landing next to the capital of the East African country. Then he pushes around the city, and then he just leaves. The East African countries don't know that. The East African country doesn't know that he left, and they knew he would invade here, and they had actually really much troops right here. So they finish off these troops, don't find him, and then he naval invades in the north of the country, taking the coast, taking city after city, and actually overrunning the East African country, because all of this Indian army is now here in this country right here, taking all of the cities on the coast in under 2 months, something like that. And yeah, it's just crazy how much the East African country put on their capital, because they would invade there. Poland is trying to take the capital, but gets cut off and actually only barely escapes his death, and is now a bit locked down in the East African country, which is actually resisting more than India. And yeah, Poland's plan failed. He failed to execute the plan correctly, and now he kind of doesn't know what to do anymore. And still, his brother is still kicking Egyptian ass, and it's actually encircling one Egyptian city down here, taking it. But then disaster struck. Egypt puts a lot of their troops on the border, encircles the city, and the army has the order to find his brother and kill him before he can escape. Poland 18's brother dies in battle, and yeah, he dies, yes. And now the entire country of Persia only has one great military strategist left, which is Pauline 18. But he's depressed right now that he's seeing his empire fade really strong right now. He gets pushed back on every front. We see the Blue Country doing more and more invasions into the Persian country, and now actually reaching the major population hubs, going down the Tiger River, cutting off all of these sections. We see that the East African country is slowly but surely liberating itself, and he doesn't have anything left in India. We see these countries right here pushing back, reaching really major population hubs, taking it, and the population is about split 50-50, is about split 50-50 about the war effort. But at this point, Poland goes back to defend his capital, which is now put under siege. But then they take this city down here. And before Pauline 18 knows it, he gets encircled and actually take control of this coast. And the army has the order to kill him, and they take the capital. And Pauline 18 did not manage to escape. Pauline 18 died in the capital in a battle which was leading on the 5th of June 200 maybe 312 AD, and with his son also being killed because he took his son everywhere with him so that he can be a great military strategist like him and his brother, also dying, and no popular general being left. The Persian country surrenders officially only 3 days after Fallen 18's death to the Crimean country. And in the peace treaty also, in the surrender, it's also agreed on that this country gets back its territories. And with this happening, the communists seized down Sri Lanka and actually discovering it completely and taking it completely. The greatest empire that's ever existed fell, and this is going to completely change the power rankings. And also on the teams, we see that instantly after surrendering this, of course, these two actually don't exist, and the Navy country is going to leave this alliance. And you will see the peace treaty in the next episode, because this episode is already way too long. Maybe the peace treaty is actually just a episode by itself. But we will see. So like and subscribe, and have a great day, and bye.